Well, welcome to the Retail Ready Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Osburn. Happy Friday to all of our independent dealer friends all over the country and all over the world, actually. If you're listening to us on the radio or online on our YouTube channel, please like and subscribe. We've got a jam-packed episode coming today. I'm very excited about our guest, Brandon Reeves from North Carolina. Actually, I'm broadcasting from sunshiny Sarasota, Florida, but with the hurricane, it's a little gray today. Luckily, that thing is veering off to the northeast. But so, speaking of the northeast, our guest today, Brandon Reeves, is from North Carolina. Get your cup of coffee, relax, sit back, get excited, because we got 30 minutes of power coming at you here in just a few minutes. So let's get it going. So we're going to dive right in. I told you I've got a very excited about a dealer guest. This podcast is all about dealers talking to other and listening to other dealers so we can get sharper every day at our dealership and our operation. And I'm very excited about our guest today, Brandon Reeves, with Brandon Reeves Auto World in North Carolina, in the Charlotte area, in a town called Monroe. Beautiful area. And he's been there with his wife, Lisa, for about 23 years. You're a 42-year-old dealer, very successful. So Brandon, why don't you introduce your dealership and just tell us a little bit about your family and your business and how you got started.
Yeah, my name's Brandon Reeves. We are in Monroe, like Justin said, which is basically Charlotte, North Carolina. It's the boulevard, which goes from one end to the other, is loaded with dealerships, and we're in the Monroe area. So I started with my wife. We married. It's a funny story. We married when I was 18 and she was 15 years old. And we were going to live on love. Well, that lasted about 3 days, and we realized we had to have jobs. So we got jobs at a place called Bob Mayberry Chrysler Dodge Jeep, washing cars side by side. A guy at my church was over their inventory, and he said, "Hey, we need people to detail." So he took us to Walmart the night before on Sunday night after church. We went to Walmart, bought shop vacs, all kinds of cleaning stuff. Never cleaned a car in my life, and started the next day as professional detailers. So anyway, but we started there. I ended up selling cars. Then I ended up as a buyer, then used car manager. And eventually we ended up being partners in the dealership. She went home after a few months, thank goodness. We got an apartment, and then she went home. But I stayed there, and we ended up being partners in the dealership. Since then, we had a Hyundai dealership that we sold about 4 years ago. But in the midst of that, we started a dealership 16 years ago called Brandon Reeves Auto World. It's a standalone, obviously, used car store. We specialize in kind of specialty stuff, not necessarily high dollar specialty stuff, although we'll keep some of that, but lifted trucks, diesel trucks, just stuff that other people sometimes are a little more afraid to own is kind of our niche. So we've had our ups and downs, and but I'm honored to be here today. I can't believe you would even choose me to ask me to be on your show, but I really am honored. I feel like I should be asking you the questions, but anyway, you're the master of this deal. So.
I don't know about that, but actually we've talked over the last year. I've been interested in having you on the podcast for a long time because of our conversation in New Orleans. I'll never forget. Yeah. We were in New Orleans at a 20 group meeting, shameless plug, but we were at a 20 group meeting, true story, right? And we were having dinner, and then and I'm going to get right into it because this is just, in fact, I tell this story all the time from stage all over the country.
You're way more fascinated by the story than I am. But
maybe I tell it better. I don't know. But
we'll find out.
Let's unpack that a little bit. Tell us about what how the bicycle charitable program started, and I just would like to give you some plenty of time to walk through that because this is really interesting.
All this is my son, who at the time was 7 years old, came to me, and he had heard at school that there were some kids that Santa Claus wasn't going to visit in our town, and that there were kids who wanted bikes for Christmas that Santa Claus wasn't going to come see, and they weren't going to get anything. And so he came to me and wanted to give his bike to one of these children to donate his bicycle to try to help. And he asked me, he said, "Dad, can we help these people?" And immediately your heart struck when your child comes to you with that. And I wasn't aware that there was a bicycle need or this, that, or the other in our town. But I told him, I said, "Son, we're going to do something to help these people. I don't know what, but we're going to do something." And so, everyone, and they're great causes. I'm not minimizing, but everyone has a barrel out front. Everyone's collecting toys. I mean, listen, there's so much good in people around Christmas time to put another barrel out front and say, bring bikes or bring stuff. It probably wasn't going to have the impact that I really wanted it to have. So after thinking about it, I said, what's something that I can do that's really outside the box that will get people's attention? And so I went to my little boy and I said, look, Dad's thought of something. It's a little crazy, but I think it'll get people's attention. He said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to take the only building that we own besides our house, and I'm going to get on the roof of it. I'm going to live up there until people bring us bikes. And he said, well, how long are you going to live up there? I said, that depends on how long it takes to get bikes in. He said, well, are you going to stay up there at nighttime? I said, I'm going to stay at night. I said, to do this, son, we're going to have to have something really crazy. I said, it's neat to sit up there during the day, but when people realize you're willing to sit there in the dead middle of winter, 24 hours a day until they bring bikes, I said, somebody's going to have to bring some bikes. I said, I can't imagine there's not enough good in the world that people won't do that. And so we built, I told my wife about it. She immediately thought I'd lost my mind and begged me not to do it and said, look, let's just give money. Let's just do this. I said, no. I said, I really feel like, first of all, I wanted our son to see the good in helping others, which he already had, but I really wanted him to see, because I felt like an impact could be made if someone did something extreme. And so we had a platform built on the roof of the building. They built a platform and basically had like I don't know what you would call it, but basically something I could lean against during the day. We had a crane that brought a porta-john out on the top of the building. We put a porta-john up there, and we took a lift, lifted me up. I put a Christmas tree up and a bicycle in a 2-man tent, and a heater, a Yeti. I had a Yeti, a heater. There was nothing glamorous about it. It was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
It sounds tough.
So we got up there, and I got up there, and immediately we went on the radio. And I had some radio stations. I had one radio station who said, look, we'll advertise this for you for free. We'll help you out with this. It's a little local radio station that really only the people in our town know of, a little AM station. And they announced it. And all of a sudden, before I could even get totally up there, someone pulled in with 2 bicycles. Then all of a sudden, someone else pulled in with a bicycle. And so this went on for about 7 days, I believe. Wow. The first time. First time it went on for about 7 days, 24 hours a day. I'd sleep up there, and one of the hardest things was it'd be 3 o'clock in the morning after you'd stood there all day. You had to wave at everybody. I had a Santa Claus hat and different things on, and you would finally get to crash, but you would have these people that would ride by at 3 in the morning that really wanted to see if that guy was in the tent, and they would sit out front and blow the horn, and I would have to unzip the tent, crawl out of there, stand up there in my underwear, freezing, or my long johns, whatever it was, hunting clothes that I had on, and wave at them to let them know I was up there. But the goal the first year, they needed 3,000 bikes. And so, I had people telling me, look, you won't get 100 bikes. And it had me a little nervous. But we went up there and we ended up with 585 bikes the first year after 7 days. And so the second year, you want me to keep going with this?
Absolutely.
So the second year, everybody wanted to know, hey, are you going to do, last year, are you going to do the bikes? Are you going to do the bikes? And so I kind of, started something that I felt like I had to do. And so my wife said, look, how many bicycles are you going to do this year? She said, I know how you are. You're very impulsive. She said, you're going to do something crazy. I said, well, she said, I think a lot of people gave last year. I don't know that she's more conservative than me. She said, I don't know that people will give like they did last year. And so I said, I think they will. So we took and we were the, whatever you call it, of the parade, the
Grand Marshal or
the Grand Marshal. We were the Grand Marshal of the parade, and we got an 18-wheeler with a flatbed on it, and we took and stacked bicycles on it, lined them up in rows, and we went through it. I had a sound system, and I announced when we got to the center of town, I announced that I was going on the roof, and I had a roll up like a sign that had been made there, like a vinyl sign, and we rolled it down, and my wife didn't even know how many was on it, and the number was, we're going to raise 1,500 bikes. And so immediately my wife almost falls off the truck. My kids are like, Dad, 1,500. Oh my goodness, what are we going to do? And I said, we're going to do it. Don't worry about it. We're going to get it. Well, I ended up the second time. I think I was up there 13 days. We had record low temperatures. It was a lot harder the second year. I started getting sick.
Oh.
And so anyway, but the turnout that we had the second year was unbelievable. It reached all the way. I think it made a news station in Dallas, Texas. There were people coming from Georgia. There were people coming from South Carolina. There were people coming from Virginia. But there were but the funny thing about it, Justin, was this. These were people bringing 1 and 2 at a time. But these were These were hard-working, blue-collar people. We had people that would call, and we had sold out. All the Walmarts, all the Targets. Nobody had any bikes left around here. So we would have people that would call and say, "Look, we're at Walmart. It's 11:30 at night. Our kids got to go to school tomorrow, but they've just had a shipment come in. Our child will not let us go home until we buy the tools, go out in the parking lot, and put the bikes together and bring them to you. Will you let us in?" Because we would block the driveway at night because we had all these bicycles sitting out in the driveway. So anyway, long story short, we stayed up there for that long. We had one church that bought $5,000 worth of bikes. We had one dump truck that came full of bikes where a man set a dump truck around, and he owned a plumbing company or some kind of company like that. And he had a dump truck full of bikes. Long story short, we ended up with around 2,100 bikes the second year. And there were 2,000 people on the list. And we actually had extras because there weren't as many on the list as there was. We did it through we live in Union County, the Union County Christmas Bureau. And because they had so many the year before, the list had less on it this year. So we were able to get every single bike in the county that was on that list. And so we had no kids as far as bicycles, I guess, that Santa didn't visit. And so anyway, no, I got made out to be a hero in town. All right, and on the news, and one news station showed up, then everyone in Charlotte showed up. But really, and I mean this sincerely, I'm not just trying to be humble. Anybody can sit on a roof. Okay, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to live up on a roof. Okay, the heroes in the story are the people, the husband and wives who said, "Hey, we're not going to buy each other Christmas this year. We're just going to take and buy 2 bicycles for you," because they had to be new bikes. These were brand new bikes.
Yeah.
And so it was an amazing thing. I think I haven't said anything this year, but I think I'm probably going to go up again this year. We're going to try to do it even bigger and better. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to try to do it bigger this year and just see what we can accomplish. But that's pretty much the bicycle thing. My 93-year-old grandmother showed up from an hour and a half away. My mother brought her, and we actually lifted her up on the roof, and she climbed up there and sat with me at 93 years old. And it was just an amazing. Let me tell you, I shed a lot of stinking tears up on that roof watching people come in, and people were bringing me food. People were doing so many nice things, but watching people come in and really sacrificially give was one of the most touching things I'd ever seen. The fire department came out and hoisted their biggest ladders they had up in the air and put Santa Claus up there and played music, and it was just a neat time. I'll have to tell you what, this year I'll have to send you some video or whatever, because I know you need to come up here this year and get on the roof with me and hang out a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a great way to spend a couple of days. How long were you up there last year?
Last year, I think, was 13 days.
13 days.
Yeah.
And you know what?
I think
remember,
that's right. Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me online on that.
Well, what I remember about this, when you told me the story the first time, and I was just, I just love hearing it again. I guess and I know you just as good as most people, I know that you would do something like, just because you're a good-hearted guy. I mean, you're a great guy, and no, you are a great-hearted guy, and you have a good heart, and I think that's just an awesome story. But I guess the car guy in me asked you, "Hey, did you do any like Facebook Lives or any advertising?" And I remember you looking at me and was like, "You think that's a good idea?" But that's the way I usually tell the story. I was like, "Here's, I'll have dealers in a room at a convention or something, or a 20 group, and I'm telling your story, but I'm doing it while I'm doing like a Facebook education. And then I'm saying, do you want to know what education or entertaining content is? Let me tell you about Brandon Reeves. This guy gets on a roof for 13 days, raises thousands of bikes. And I said, it's a perfect platform to do some organic growth on Facebook. Because can you imagine, and this is what I usually say, can you imagine pulling out your iPhone? And I get this isn't like why you did it. It wasn't to advertise, because you didn't really do any advertising behind it. You were just doing it to help your son and to raise these bikes. But I mean, how long would it take in your town or in Charlotte if you pulled out your phone at 6 o'clock on the first night and said, "Hey everybody, it's 10 degrees out here. Hope you're having a nice warm dinner and cozy with your family. I'm the crazy car dealer up here collecting bikes. I'll check in with you at around 10 o'clock when you're crawling into bed." I mean, these lives would literally go viral. Did you guys do anything on Facebook with that?
We did very little. Listen, I am the last person on earth to really get into digital. Okay, we really just got into Facebook recently, as you know. But I had a girl stop by and said, "Hey, you need to do Facebook Live." I didn't know what she was talking about, and so we did one, and I don't know, we had maybe a couple hundred people that were watching or whatever. But I didn't schedule it well. I didn't know what I didn't know, and so I can assure you, going forward, all right, this next time we're on the roof, God willing, we get up on the roof, we're really going to do this thing with social media and really try. That's why I say I think it could really be something extra special this time around, because I think we can reach so many people with social media. And that's the one thing I would tell dealers: look, if you're like me and you're late to the party and you sell cars without social media, let me tell you, you'll really sell cars with social media. So.
What about this? I know you're doing business out of North Carolina. You've been there for a long time. You've been from that area a long time. What's it like doing business in North Carolina? We got some listeners of the podcast that are in that area. But, what's it like to do business in the great state of North Carolina? Are there dock fee limits? Have you ever reached out to or heard from the CIADA or been to any of their events?
Yeah.
Is there much going on there? I mean, what's that State of the Union feel like?
A couple of things about that. It's funny you mention that. Charlotte is a car town. All right. I mean, which I'm sure, I'm sure there's a lot of others there are too. But, for our little area, I mean, there's anybody and everybody. All the big boys are here. Your CarMaxes, like they are everywhere. But I mean, the new thing in town is the, I can't remember the name of it now, but it's the one that Sonic's doing, Echo Park. The Echo Parks in town, they came out of the gate doing 600 cars a month, right here in Charlotte. And so there's a lot of competition around here. As far as, some challenges we have, as far as dock fees, there's no dock fee limit in North Carolina. I'm sure there will be at some point. We're at $6.99 right now. We started out at $99 16 years ago. I really thought every time I went up $100, I thought, man, this is going to put us out of business. This is the worst. I can't believe I'm doing this, but people had talked me into it. And nothing happened. Okay, we kept selling cars. Now I think $6.99 maxes us out. There are some dealers out there that are $9.99. Some new car dealers, I've heard of $1,100. I don't, that to me is pretty strong. $6.99 seems to max us out, but there are no limits on that. As far as CIADA, they are very, very alive and well in the Carolinas. Their training is unbelievable. They're very easy to get a hold of by phone. And if they don't know the answer, or you have an odd situation, they'll say, "Hey, you know what? We don't know the answer, but we will get that immediately for you." And they've really been great to deal with. We have continuing education here, which I don't know, that may be nationwide. I don't know that, to keep your dealer's license, but they're in charge of that, or they do the training for that, and they do a phenomenal job. I'm really big on them.
Yeah,
they do a great job.
That's great. That's good to hear. What about switching gears a little bit, Brandon? Most of our listener base is going to be other independent dealers or key managers or senior managers. Mm-hmm. And a question I like to ask dealers is, what's a mistake you've made? What's a big mistake you've made in the past that maybe slowed you down or hurt you a little bit?
How long is this podcast? How long do you have?
Well, can you give us a little bit of
I feel like I've made them all. But one I've already mentioned. I was late to social media. Okay, I thought that was just for millennials and yada, for my kids and yada yada yada, and I was really ignorant. I mean, so late to social media. We've been on social media for about 90 days, I would say now. We've got right at 5,000 followers on Facebook, which I guess is decent.
That's good.
I'm trying to do crazy videos, and which I say crazy. I'll make them funny or whatever, but I mean they're not hokey. But I'm trying to keep it in the middle of the road or whatever. But I would say one of the biggest challenges I've had over the years, one of the biggest mistakes that I've had are keeping inventory too long. Okay, not being willing to take that car and retail it at maybe a little more or what it would have brought at the auction, hoping that best case it would bring a trade or bring some back end, or nothing else. I'd rather gain a customer than to sell it to a dealer at an auction. But so many times back in the day, I would keep them, and did not want to keep my inventory. I wanted to, but not badly enough. I wouldn't keep my inventory fresh, and I would sit on inventory too long, and I wouldn't reduce the price until it was time to take it to the auction. I reduced a little bit, but to really get it down there where I need it to be, to not have to take it to the auction, I wouldn't do that, and I would sit on inventory. But one thing we do a lot is we try to do trucks, and the reason is, your margins are higher in trucks. We lift them and do all that kind of stuff, but your margins are higher in trucks. And the other thing is, if you're a dealer and you think about it, when's the last time you took a truck to the auction? When's the last time you took a diesel truck and had a wholesale at the auction? It just doesn't happen that much. But you take a regular, rental rocket, as I call them, a little Toyota Camry or a little, Malibu or whatever, you very easily taking those cars back to the auction. So I would say sitting on inventory too long and not being willing to reduce the price. Because one of the biggest fights that I fight right now, and I'm sure you're talking about it in your 20 groups, okay, I know you have with me in our 20 group, has been margin compression and how much margin compression there is right now in our industry. And if you're not willing to adjust to that, you'll be out of the game before it's over. But I would say keeping my inventory too long and not being willing to get on the social media bandwagon.
Brandon, do you still go to live auctions, or do you buy online, or a mix?
I do a mix. I'm buying a lot online right now. I mean, we still buy from dealers on the phone, but a lot of that's going away. Most new car dealers that have any sense, I mean, they're taking them to the auction because they're bringing more there instead of letting the old dealer down the road, the old used car dealer buy it. But, we're buying a lot online. We are buying at auctions. I have some guys that buy in Florida for me at the auction. I have some guys, Atlanta, just different places that buy for us. But we're constantly scouring. I mean, it's just, I'd say that's our other biggest issue is getting the inventory that we need, which I think everybody's fighting that same issue. And so it's a mixture.
What about, you talked a little bit about some of the mistakes you made in the past that you learned from, and if you're willing, what's a little bit of your secret sauce that sets Brandon Reeves Auto World apart? I mean, what's something that you guys are strong in?
I would say, and you're probably looking for something a little more with a little more meat on the bone than this, but I would say one thing that's been good for us that has helped differentiate us, for lack of a better term, is we've not been afraid to stock a vehicle that a lot of people are going to wholesale if they take it in on trade, or we've been willing to take and invest the money to customize. And when I say customize, I just mean lift a truck and put a set of wheels and tires on it. But a lot of dealers, they're nervous about that now. They want to tie up their cash into that, and I get that. But let me tell you, if you're sitting in town and you have the Z71 Silverado, that's lifted up with some wheels and tires on a lift kit, the next guy doesn't, they're going to be more prone most of the time to come to your truck. The other thing is your margins are higher in trucks, and so we tried to focus on that as a key deal. The other thing is, like I said, you're also not having to take these back to the auction. But for example, I love examples. I'm looking out my front window here at a little '03 Thunderbird convertible that a dealer took in on trade in town. Actually, I hope they don't watch it. It's my old store. They took it in on trade. And I bought that car. They didn't keep the vehicle, and I bought the vehicle from them. Now, I had to spend some money on it, yada, yada, yada. But, that's a car that everybody's not going to keep because it's such a niche vehicle. Well, the reason we keep it is because it is a niche vehicle, and somebody's looking for this vehicle. And I think sometimes we get to where we stock cookie-cutter inventory because it's safe, it warms us up, and we feel good about it because we kind of know that market, and we're scared, to the old term, to get outside the box and to get something that maybe we don't stock. I always take the guys that I know that are really knocking it out of the park, all right? And I look at what they're doing, all right? I always say to my guys, it doesn't have to be my idea to work. It just has to be the right idea or a good idea. And so if I see guys that are used car dealers, and there's always one around, I don't care how slow it is. I don't care if it's I don't care if it's going back to school time or vacation time or time to pay taxes. It doesn't matter. There's always somebody who's getting the job done. And you take that person and you try to emulate whatever you can that they're doing to be successful. And that's a lot of what I've done. I've just found other people. We've really gotten into a BDC, even at a little store. Now listen, it's me and two salespeople. I don't have a finance manager. I don't have, our salespeople take it cradle to grave. We do between 50 and 60 a month. And, they do the deals pretty much cradle to grave. But we got a BDC person in here. And yeah, it costs you some money. But let me tell you, that's one thing that a lot of used car dealers, I think, are not utilizing, is they're not focusing on a BDC because it's more of a new car thing to them. And you need someone in here that is focused on nothing but your leads. And I think that's something that we've done okay with, is having someone that's dedicated to nothing but our leads, holding our salespeople accountable for follow-up, all right, because they're paid off of it and wanting to know where we are on these leads. And so I think that's been another good thing for us. And there's nothing new about the things I just said. I mean, I wish I could uncover something really, really sexy here and everybody get excited. But those are two things that have worked for us. It's being a niche dealer, okay, and a BDC has done really well for us.
Let me throw this at you. I was in Atlanta last week and at a 20 group, a new one, just started another new one, a retail 20 group. And, we were talking about inventory mix and things like what you've just touched on. And I remembered at home here, when I drive from my office here in Sarasota to my house, I was thinking about it, and there's one dealership that I can like put my finger on in my mind. I remember it. And the reason why I remember it is because it has nothing but lifted trucks. It's just
Right.
a front line of lifted trucks. And that catches my eye. Now, I probably pass 15 car lots on the way here to the office downtown. But I
You're waiting
remember
to pass that one, right? You're thinking about that when you
that
pass
one
it.
sticks out, and I'm not even in the market
Right.
for a lifted truck. And then I got to
Right.
thinking about that and like kind of being self-aware about it. And then I threw this out of my 20 group in Atlanta last week. I was like, take an extreme example, and I'm not advocating doing this, but let's say you decided that you were going to have 50 frontline Lexuses next to each other, some SUVs, some cars, some trucks. Well, when people drive by that I mean, and not in the balloon way, but that stands out. Like if somebody
Sure.
was looking for a Lexus or something comparable, man, I think they would know instantly. So I kind of equate this to, I've been using this analogy lately of the general practitioner doctor. Like you go to the doctor so that they can identify what's wrong, and then they refer you to a specialist, unless it's a
Right.
cold or something. And then you go to the specialist who can really help you. Well, I feel like in the past generations, a used car independent dealer was kind of a general practitioner. You had this mix of like 50 to 60%
Right.
cars, and then 10 or 15% SUVs, and then 10% trucks. And you hold a few minivans, and hope that, back when that was popular. But today, I feel like we're seeing more like niche, boutique type independent car
Absolutely.
dealers that are really focused on a particular market. I know you're staying on, abreast to what's going on with the changes in the automotive business. But what do you think about that? I mean, we haven't talked about this, but how does that strike you?
No, listen. I agree. I could not agree more. I mean, this morning. I bought a Range Rover. Okay, I'm not a real Range Rover guy. It's not my thing. All right, but I found one that in my opinion, one that just let's say we're car guys and car girls here. Let's get in the weeds. It was a 15 that had 49,000 miles. It wasn't over 50,000 miles. I bought it for 34 and a half. Okay, so I figured that's a Range Rover I can sell and still be in the 30s. Okay, and get somebody who wants to look like they're driving an $80,000 car but can't afford one. All right, but you know what? I know for a fact, and God, I bet there's 50 used car dealers in town here. I mean, I'm talking about in my town, I'm not counting Charlotte. I mean, they're giving birth to each other. They put a moratorium. They won't let him. They said a moratorium. They won't let any more open. Okay, I mean, they won't take any more. Okay, I mean, if you're not grandfathered in, they won't take any more.
Is that true?
And so that's true. Yeah.
Wow.
If you haven't been a dealer in 6 months, you're out.
Wow.
And so anyway, but I know there's no one else in town has one of those sitting there, even any new car dealers. And so I'm willing to take that chance, all right, because I've done my homework and I believe in that niche market. And you say, well, there's nothing niche about trucks. Well, there is if you're buying 4-wheel drive trucks and you're willing to take, and you're a dealer and you're willing to take and buy something that maybe has 70,000 miles on it. Maybe ordinarily that's a little out of your comfort zone. Maybe you're a 30,000 mile in warranty kind of guy. Let me tell you, there's a lot more people that can afford a 70,000 mile 4-wheel drive truck than can a 30,000 mile.
That's the truth.
And I think a lot of used car dealers, there again, they stay in the cookie cutter mentality. But no, I absolutely agree with you. I think if you're taking that Lexus and you line them up and they can go by, and I understand the other one's certified, but it's also going to be $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 more, okay, than your vehicle. Well, you can certify that vehicle if you want to. It may not be a Lexus certification, but I mean, hey, they don't break. They're great cars. But no, I agree 100%. I think keeping the old mix of 10% trucks, whatever it is, 50% cars, and a few minivans, whatever. I think that's out the window now. I think you got to have what sells, and if not, they're going to go buy from one of the big boys. Listen, like I said, Toyota Camrys. I couldn't sell a Toyota Camry if I gave it away, a newer one. All right, if I go buy an 18 model Toyota Camry, they're going to go down here to the Toyota store selling 600 cars a month. That's 4 stories high, and they're going to buy that car, all right, because they're everywhere. Everyone has them. But I think when you get that vehicle that's especially like this Lexus, a specialty type vehicle, I think it rings a bell, and I think it brings people in. And I think it makes your dealership look more real, and I think it makes your dealership look more, I had a call come in, I'm sorry. I think it makes your dealership look more legitimized when you carry some of that stuff out there.
Switching gears, in one of our last topics here would be more on lender mixes. This is another big hot topic in a lot of 20 groups with a lot of dealers, being able to get the right lenders. What about credit unions specifically? Over the years, you've been in business a long time. You've been there in the community. I'm just curious, have local or regional credit unions played any role in your ability to get customers financed, and what role have they played, and what are they doing now?
Well, let me tell you, you hear it and I hear it. What do you hear at 20 group meetings? You hear dealers talking about, used car dealers talking about, especially smaller, when somebody can't get any banks, I can't get financing. And we use Cuddle. Cuddle's been very good for us. I'm sure you're familiar with what Cuddle is. And I think Cuddle's nationwide. I don't think it's a North Carolina thing. I think they're nationwide.
Nationwide.
And so, we use Cuddle, which is a conglomerate of credit unions. All right. And I think we pay, don't quote me on this, I think we pay $5.99 a month or $6.99, whatever it is for it. But we do a ton of business through these credit unions. We're getting great rates. We're getting long term. And so we're big on credit unions. Listen, when someone comes in and says, I want to go through my credit union, well, we cringe to hear that sometimes because we know it's a cash deal. We say, hey, time out, wait. We actually have a conglomerate. We have a group of credit unions that compete against each other, all right, for your business. And a lot of times they'll beat what your credit union can do. Let us see what our credit unions can do. And they hear the term credit union because people are very loyal to their credit unions, okay? And so when we can get them switched over to Cuddle, a lot of times we can salvage that financing versus them just going to their local credit union. We also use Wells Fargo, which from what I understand, I think they're back signing up a lot of used car dealers nowadays. So if you tried Wells before and you've not been approved, maybe you want to try them again and see if you can get on board, because I think they've gotten really aggressive on signing dealers right now. Now we have a few other lenders that we kept from our new car franchise that just let us stay on, so that's probably a little unfair. But if you had Cuddle, that's going to get, if you don't have Cuddle, you're missing deals.
Brandon, you volunteered earlier that you guys were selling 50 to 60 retail units a month, and that's a great volume. Are you servicing those in-house, or do you third party them out? So do you have a couple lifts there at the facility? I know I've been there, but for our listeners, do you have lifts there, and what's that operation look like, and how long does it take you on average to turn a car around and get it through service and get it on the lot?
We try to do it in 3 or 4 days. That's probably not realistic for us. I mean, I'm thinking the average one's taking 7 or 8 days because we're having to order parts. And sometimes when we're keeping kind of specialty stuff, it may take a little longer to get a part. But we have 3 full-time technicians. We have 4 lifts, and we do everything in-house. We actually just started not too long ago even doing our lift kits and our wheels and tires in-house.
Oh, wow.
So we're making the money on that. But no, I would think 7 to 8 days, which probably isn't that great. That's probably not what you're pushing in your 20 groups. I'm sure you're thinking 36 to 48 hours. I'm sorry. But yeah, 36 to 48 hours to get them on the lot. What are you finding that people are generally, how long is it taking, and what do you see?
Well, the industry right now, like best practice is 4 days, 4 to 5 days. However, that's a lofty goal for many people, especially when you don't have an internal fixed ops department. So that's good though. Certainly you're always looking to shave that because you're trying to outrun your floor plan cost and fees.
Right.
And the longer they're not on the lot, that's the chance for us to crack a home run, but that's good. So you're bringing them in, they're transported in from wherever you're acquiring them at, and then they're going into your own service shop.
Yeah, that's from when we get them in here. Now, that's not counting how long it takes to transport them here, because some of them take a week to get here.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, listen, that's all we have for today, Brandon. I just want to sincerely thank you. You're one of the most genuine and generous and humble dealers I know. I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate you being willing to come on the podcast and tell your story. And hopefully maybe we can do it again, or maybe I can come to North Carolina at Christmas time and jump on the roof.
Yeah, listen, I would love to have you do that. I think anyone who knows you would say the same thing about your genuineness, kindness, generosity. Also, one more thing here. Maybe if we do this again, or sometime if you have more time, there's a floor plan company that I get nothing for that I have gotten hooked up with that is absolutely like no one I've ever dealt with, and I've dealt with the big boys, that has really, really made an impact on my business that I would love to plug. And there again, I just think it would help some of your dealers.
Can we do that? We have a few minutes.
Yeah,
go for it.
They're called Flex Plus. They're out of Florida, and they do lines up to, I mean, I don't know how high they go. I think the line that I have with them is $1.5 million. And so they're not $50,000 lines. They'll do those and they're happy to do those. But I mean, they'll get up in there into the tall grass if they need to. But their name is Flex Plus, and they focus on flexibility for their dealer. And they truly are flexible in what they're doing. And they really work with the dealer, because every situation is different when it comes to getting a deal funded, getting it paid off in the right amount of time. And these people really, really work with you. And so, I think it's the same amount of term to pay the car off or whatever. But if there's an issue, they're not coming in and cutting your line. They're not taking a drop in the hammer on you. They audit you once a month. They're very reasonable, very realistic. Yeah, if anyone would like to get in touch with them, I'm personal friends with the president of the company. It's a funny story. I won't get into how we met, but it was just honestly almost an act of God. We just bumped into each other by accident and started a conversation. Wow. And all of a sudden it bloomed. And I've been with them for about 3 years now, and I can tell you, if you're looking for floor plan and if it makes sense, all right, they're not going to beat you to death on fees, and they're not going to beat you to death on financial statements. If you're a decent dealer that's trying to do the right thing, they'll do business with you.
That's awesome.
I think there's a lot of dealers out there that could use these folks. If someone wants to get in touch with me, I'm happy to hook you up with them. There again, I don't get a referral fee. I just really believe in this company. Yeah, Flex Plus.
That's good to hear, because there's not a ton of great floor planning options,
right,
especially when you're that dealer from 0 to 50, trying to grow. So if you'd like to get in touch with Brandon, you got questions about that, I'm going to put some links in the content below that you can click on
put my cell phone number up. I don't care. They can call me.
Yeah, definitely. I'll put my email address on there too. I'll put your cell phone number on there. Feel free to reach out to Brandon. Brandon, thank you so much. We appreciate your time today, early this morning.
You're the best.
And we have a great weekend. You got any big plans?
Booyah! Hit the gong! I'm kidding. I just wanted to do that the whole time just to screw with. Yeah.
That's awesome. I said, you got any big plans for the weekend?
Yeah, my daughter got sent home from college because of the hurricane, so it's like Christmas at our house this week. Nice. And so I'm not happy for a hurricane, but there's a little joy in me that she got evacuated from Wilmington. So we're going to be with her daughter, and of course we're going to be here selling cars, making friends with the public, as we say. So anyway, thank you for having me on. My kids are going to think I'm on TV now. This is going to be cool. All right, I'll be kind of a big deal in my house.
Awesome.
Famous.
Well, everybody have a great weekend. Sell a bunch of cars. Make sure you tune into the podcast next Friday. We're excited. We're going to have Ted Hinkle, a dealer out of Indiana, southern Indiana, who's going to be joining us, a retail dealer. So be sure you like and subscribe and share and all that social media jazz. And we'll have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.